Policy that cannot survive Monday is policy theater. That is the whole point of this brief. Every week we see strong AI headlines, new capabilities, new risk language, new market moves. But inside most teams, almost none of that gets translated into operational behavior fast enough to matter. That gap is exactly where governance breaks. So, in this episode, we are doing two things only: what changed this week and what you should change this week. Welcome to AI Change Desk. AI news you can use, change management you can execute. I am Michael Hanna Boutros Meyering. Quick disclosure before we start. AI-assisted tools were used in research and production support. Final editorial judgment and release decisions remained human-led. And one boundary note: this is operational guidance, not legal advice. It is not representative of any agency or entity, and these are my own opinions. This is AI Change Desk. Thank you for choosing to tune in. Today we are covering two current signals. 1. Anthropic's warning on industrial-scale distillation attacks and what that means for model and vendor controls. 2. NIST's AI Agent Standards Initiative and what that means for procurement language, integration standards, and accountability structure. Then we will close with a Monday checklist you can run in under 30 minutes. First signal: Anthropic's February 23rd update on distillation attacks. The short version is they described repeated attempts to extract high-value model behavior through large-scale synthetic query and imitation patterns. Why should operators care? Because this is not just a model lab problem. It is a downstream enterprise problem. When extraction pressure rises, providers change guardrails, rate limits, access patterns, detection logic, and enforcement controls. That creates real workflow impact for teams running model-enabled operations. If your team treats this as just security news context, you will miss the operational change. Here is the practical translation. First, treat provider security bulletins as workflow events, not background reading. When a provider signals active abuse patterns, assume at least one of your assumptions can drift: output consistency, latency and throughput behavior, abuse monitoring triggers, or allowed automation patterns. Second, tighten your internal model access classes now, not later. A simple 3-tier model is enough for most teams. Open Assist for low-risk drafting and summarization with no sensitive data. Controlled Assist for business workflows with approved data boundaries and manager oversight. Restricted for security, legal, privileged, or external impact workflows requiring explicit human decision lock. If you cannot classify your use cases this way today, you are probably over-permitting usage. Third, require evidence-backed review for security-adjacent AI outputs. Do not accept "the model says this is high severity" as a conclusion. Require traceable evidence, reproducible context, and a named approver. Fourth, update vendor management language. If your contracts do not clearly define abuse and monitoring expectations, model change communication windows, and access revocation plus escalation pathways, your governance is too dependent on informal goodwill. And that works exactly until the first real incident. The operations takeaway from this story is straightforward. Model security pressure upstream should trigger control hardening downstream. If nothing changed inside your team this week after this signal, the signal was ignored. Second signal: NIST's AI Agent Standards Initiative and related coordination updates this week. Important precision: this is not a finalized regulation. It is still directional work and standards shaping activity. But direction is exactly what operators need to act on early. Because when interoperability language starts maturing, procurement expectations and audit questions arrive faster than teams expect. And that catches a lot of teams flat-footed. In practice, 3 questions will show up soon in almost every serious buyer conversation. Can this agent or system interoperate with existing controls and logs without brittle custom work? Can we describe handoff boundaries between automated actions and accountable human approvals? Can we migrate without total lock-in if model, vendor, or policy constraints change?
If your team cannot answer those now, you are already behind. So what should change this week? 1. Add an interoperability line item to intake. Do not just ask, does it work? Ask what standard interfaces are supported, what event and decision logs are exportable, and what identity and permission systems are natively supported. 2. Require a human accountability map before broad rollout.
For each agent-like workflow, document what actions it can take, where approval gates exist, who is accountable for exceptions, and which escalation path is active after hours. 3. Create a portable controls requirement in procurement language. If your controls cannot move with your workflow, you do not own the workflow. Portable controls include independent logging export, policy rule portability, and model or provider substitution path. 4. Update internal communication. Standards talk can become abstract quickly. Translate it for operators in plain language. What changed, what we now require, what we prohibit, and where to escalate edge cases. Teams miss this step all the time. They write standards-facing notes for experts and forget frontline clarity. If operators still ask, what does this mean for what I do today? The policy update was not operational. The point of this second signal is simple. Standards momentum should trigger procurement and control design now, before deployment scale makes changes expensive. Here is the weekly desk sequence for this brief. Set 1 owner. Keep this to 25 minutes. Minute 0 to 5. Intake and triage. List this week's external signals. Bucket each as informational, monitor, or action required. Minute 5 to 12. Risk translation. For each action required item, name one impacted workflow. Define what changed technically and what control assumption might drift. Minute 12 to 20. Control assignment. Assign one owner and one due date for each control update. Confirm whether a human decision lock is required. Minute 20 to 25. Operator communication. Send a one-page update. What changed, what to do this week, what not to do, and where to escalate. That is it. No giant committee. No 60-slide deck. No, we should probably language. Just one owner, one decision loop, and clear instructions. If you run this every Monday for the next month, your governance maturity will increase faster than most annual policy refreshes. 2 signals this week: distillation attacks and standards momentum. 2 required responses this week: control hardening and procurement clarity. If your organization says governance matters, this is the week to prove it operationally. I am Michael Hanna Boutros-Meyering. This is AI Change Desk. AI news you can use, change management you can execute. One last reminder before you go. If you are not translating signals into one owner, one decision, and one due date every week, governance drift is already underway. Start this Monday. Keep it simple. Keep it real. This is AI Change Desk. See you next time.